he, saw my videos online and he hit me up. He's like, bro, I need you at my wedding. I was like, I've played a wedding before, but let's try it out.
You were lost into me. You were lost into me.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Weddings and Wine podcast. Yo, I'm chilling in the building with one of my new friends, and just one of the most amazing artists that I've ever come across. Without further ado, because I don't want to put too much sauce on it, you're gonna have the opportunity to shine yourself. We have Marion DuBoses. How's it going, sir?
Pretty good, man. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's good to have you here on the couch. And I'm gonna get started. We're gonna pour this wine. We're drinking some Stella Rosa Black today.
Say less.
I'm gonna allow you to kind of get into your backstory. Tell me a little bit about, first of all, who you are, what you do, and how did you get into music, and how did that even lead you into the wedding industry?
Yeah, man. So originally, it's kind of funny. I started playing the violin when I was a little kid, back when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, around that age. And funny enough, my older sister, she was the one that introduced me to playing the violin because she's also a violinist.
Okay, I was just about to ask, did she play?
Yeah,
okay.
Man. So the crazy thing about it is, when I first started, I hated it. I despised classical music. I did not want to play in orchestras. I just thought it was terrible. And thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And later on, once I got to pushing high school and stuff, that's when I kind of started questioning my life a little bit more about what I wanted to do, what really was my purpose, that kind of stuff. And whenever I started playing more often, I started reaching into new sectors when it came to the violin. So I was like, let me try to get something else. So my mom got me my first electric violin when I was 15, and I started playing a lot of Linkin Park, One Republic, Coldplay, some typical alternative music and stuff.
Yeah.
And I got my first those little amps you get for guitars that are tiny little Squires, the small ones.
Yeah.
That was the first one I ever got, and I got my first loop pedal. And ever since, I started making up new songs, trying to figure out stuff from YouTube, and I played in my first variety show by junior year of high school, and everybody loved it. I was like, whoa, what? The violin? That's crazy. But man, once I got into college, going to where I am now, just started playing more for fun, just on my own free time. And it's funny, I went to college for business.
Okay.
But, everyone's like, you play the violin? That's so random. That doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
But and once COVID came around and the whole scenario going to 2020 and on, that's kind of when I jumped into the industry, started making it a thing, playing full time. So
yeah, that's pretty dope, man. That's pretty dope. But cheers to you. So
Salud.
you kind of talked through, obviously your introduction to music. You talked about your sister playing and just the kind of impact that had, and even first disliking it. I actually am a musician as well, believe it or not. I'm nowhere near as good as you. I actually started playing the saxophone when I was younger, and I played the drums as well. Loved the drums, and when I got to elementary school, I wanted to continue playing the drums. And the band director at the time, he was like, "You should play the saxophone." And I was like, "No, I should play the drums. That's what I've been doing." And then he was like, "No, you should play the saxophone." And so I ended up playing the saxophone, and at first I hated it. And then next thing you know, I started learning how to play certain songs or whatever, and then girls started liking it, and I was like, oh, I like the saxophone.
Exactly.
So I get it. And so you have, been able to transition from just, learning how to play to, getting in the wedding industry. And, how was it, I guess, doing your first wedding?
Ooh, my first wedding. I didn't even think about that. Actually, it was back in 2019, I think. It was whenever I was in college still. And, I just started playing small gigs, little wine nights, for around the school, because I went to Baylor University up in Waco.
Shout out to Baylor.
Yeah, no, shout out to Waco. Oh man. Yeah, I think my first wedding was one of the fraternity brothers there. He's part of Alpha Phi Alpha. He saw my videos online and he hit me up. He's like, bro, I need you at my wedding. I was like, I've played a wedding before, but let's try it out.
Yeah.
And my special self, I was like, I'm gonna go full out, like, full suit. I'm gonna have the tuxedo, like, long, like, jacket, everything. Tell me, I was playing outside, bro, for the first time for the cocktail hour, right? And I was like,
outside in Texas,
man, for a first time, I was like, wow, this is intense, And I was just like, but overall, it was a great experience. Like, I had a lot of good reception from people. Like, everyone was liking it and stuff. It was a little bit more unique. It was a little bit different. And that was the first time I ever really kind of got used to playing like a repertoire of music, like, consistently. Because, most of the time if I played consistently for like hours and hours, it would be like, for orchestra, like, playing for concerts or different type of pieces we had. But this is my first time kind of just playing on my own. So it was a wonderful experience. You definitely get to learn a lot from like, the people you meet and like, how you can kind of interact with like the crowd and like all that vice versa. So that was up in Dallas, I think. Yeah, back in 2019. So.
Okay, all right. So when I was prepping for it, this interview, I was going to ask you questions about being an electric violinist, right? But you definitely play, how would you define it? Traditional violin, acoustic violin? How would you define it?
Yeah, it would be acoustic. That would be the straight up definition. This is like violins that you see like everywhere, like typical, like on like classical music. If you see orchestra, it's like all acoustic violins. That's usually the normal ones. So
if someone is interested in booking you for their wedding or their event, and they want more so of the electric, I was about to say electric slide.
Yeah.
But the electric side of what you do, right? What all do you need when it comes to like setting up your electric violin? And I asked this question because a lot of people ask me as a DJ, like, hey, like, what all do you need to set up here, set up there? And I tell them all the time, like, hey, I'm going to bring everything. All I need is access to electricity, right? Mm-hmm. So what all do you need?
Yeah, I kind of give like a crash course a little bit when it comes to the whole like orchestral violin thing. So
okay,
let me explain. So first things off, this is actually an acoustic violin right here, right? And you can kind of see the difference between how it looks with this one versus like an electric, which is this one right here.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, when I tell people, whenever I play for events, whatever you choose, there's not really a difference because they're both strings, if you think about it. Like they all have G, D, A, E, and they're all kind of built similar.
Yeah.
The only thing that's different is their pickups. So on the side, there's a pickup that's naturally already inside the electric violin. And then on acoustic violins, if you want to amplify it and make a louder sound for DJs, vice versa, you usually should attach it and then put it on the bridge separately.
Gotcha.
On acoustic violins.
Gotcha.
And usually when it comes to the equipment that you need, my typical setup, I bring a JBL like Eon 1 Pro speaker, but that's just over time I've improved it. But simple 1, maybe 2 speakers at most. I'll have like a laptop for like mixing music if I need to for background. And then what I have is for my electric violin, I have a like a looper station, and what that is like 4 different pedals. Like I don't know if you ever seen like guitarists or any people like for different concerts and stuff. They have like this huge like board that's in front of them whenever they're playing and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how you can kind of get like the delays and like the different sound effects. And that's the one thing about electric violin that's different than acoustic. You can kind of like have an easier transition to make new sounds if you want to play with DJs, other people on your own, compared to like acoustic, which is kind of more like that rich, like orchestral, like classical, like, straight from like, Beethoven type of, deep sound. So, but other than that, that's really it. And then, electrical source. Usually I bring like a small little battery to connect, but other than that, that's mostly it.
So we've worked together now on multiple occasions, and one of the things that I was impressed by is, the simplicity of you actually being able to connect to my equipment, right? And even the fact of what you just mentioned, which I'm not sure, if everybody out there will know, but even the type of speakers that you are bringing on your own, right? Those are like good quality speakers, and so you're presenting a product to the world to where on every end, whether it's the acoustic or electric, like you're giving them the best out there. So yeah, kudos to you.
Appreciate that, man. Same for you.
So let's get into the music, man. Like, so you kind of talked about the things that you were interested in high school and kind of what got you started. When you're going to these weddings and events, like what type of music are you actually playing? Is it classical? Is it hip hop? What are you playing?
Man, it varies, bro. Like, it depends on the client specifically.
Yeah.
So, like, I played for, like, every type of event you could think of now for, like, different people. So,
Yeah.
I range from, like, a lot of hip-hop, R&B music usually. I'll play a lot of alternative or, like, more, like, romantic and, like, slow songs for, like, the ceremonies for people when they're walking.
Yeah.
And also, like, I played for, like, Latin American music. So, like, a lot of, like, Spanish music. A lot of bachata, or you can do merengue and some other stuff, and then also you can throw in like maybe like some more like slow classical pieces as well if they want a more professional wedding. Like it varies, but the range is beyond limitless. Like that's the cool thing about like with the violin. I feel like when it comes to orchestras and like violin, like the sound itself,
Yeah.
you can basically add that to almost any genre of music.
Yeah,
If you think about it. So.
Yeah, no, I've seen you in person, but I've seen a lot of your videos, and I'm like, wow, this dude is literally going from, this classical piece over here to playing Pimp C over here, and I'm just like, yo, this is a wide range, and I want to dive into that a little bit more. So, you kind of mentioned bringing the laptop earlier to where you'll have like music in the background. So you play with both, like completely by yourself, like all you, and then you also have pieces to where you'll do like a mashup or a mix with like music on your laptop or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's a mix of everything. Because one thing that's pretty unique, I kind of like about it too with the electric violin. Whenever I bring that looper pedal that I mentioned, one of the pedals, what a looper is whenever you step on it, it basically plays back whatever you just played. And for me, it's like I can make a whole song off of just the violin by itself. It's like I add a beat to it. I can play like multiple.
So you're
strings.
at weddings making entirely new songs, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, man, you can do that.
This is crazy.
Improvise on the fly. So.
Oh man. So when we're talking about, as we talk a little bit more about weddings, what all do you do at weddings? Like, is it, specifically cocktail hours, or are you doing, ceremonies as well? Are you doing receptions at all? Like what all are you doing for weddings?
Yeah, man. Honestly, like what I do is before like a client books me, like let's say like a bride is reaching out about me playing for her wedding, I have them fill out like a booking form that goes over like everything for like what they specifically need from me. So like you know, it goes in detail about like what time I need to be there, like where I'm going to be playing at, like setup and stuff. And they can also choose what kind of violin I have, because one thing about me, I've actually upgraded. I have multiple violins. So I have a blue one, a red one, a white one, and also my acoustic violin. So give them a little bit of variety. But for the different parts of the wedding, all of them. So like I play for cocktail hours all the time. Ceremony, if they need me when they're walking down the aisle, or like the rest of the bridal party is there. Same thing. I can kind of add that essence for them when they're walking. And then also for the reception shoot, like I mentioned before with you last time, like playing with the DJ, like in the party and stuff, it can get pretty crunk, like it's fun, man. So it ranges.
I personally feel like anybody that is out there thinking about booking you, if they are solely thinking about booking you like just for, and this is my opinion, if they are solely thinking about booking you just for the cocktail hour, like they are missing out. And I say that because, with the structure of a wedding during cocktail hour, a lot of times, this is the time for where guests are transitioning from wherever the ceremony was to, where the reception is going to be, or what have you, or maybe another location. But it's a transition spot, right? And so, this is the time for them to, grab drinks and, socialize, all of that kind of stuff or whatever. And if there is obviously the live entertainment or, the DJ playing or, whatever is going on, then obviously it's great. But what's happening is the bride and groom are probably somewhere, or the couple is probably somewhere taking pictures.
Yeah.
And so, like you cannot just book this man for cocktail hour. You have to add him to your ceremony, or you have to add him to your reception in some kind of way. Like, it, you know, definitely book him for cocktail hour. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. But you have to make sure that you are getting the full experience because, you know, yes, your guests are going to be amazed. But like when they transition to reception and see like, oh, he's still here. Like this is going to be a vibe. Trust me when I'm saying this to you.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah.
And so, you know, another thing that I've kind of noticed about you and how you play is like I've never seen you, you know, with a music stand.
Never.
And so I've kind of like you know, compared this to bands, right? So again, I told you, you know, I was in the band when I was younger and played saxophone. And, you know, I remember kind of the transition from, you know, just in elementary, we're sitting down, we got the music stand in front of us and we're, you know, learning to, you know, now we're in middle school and they're expecting us to kind of memorize the music. And then, you know, you start to get to high school and that's where you start to see, you know, more of like show bands and marching bands to where they're getting out on the field, they've memorized all their music and they're, you know, performing and marching everywhere. And it wasn't until I started to kind of transition outside of like Missouri City to where I would see, I guess it's called core style, to where like bands are coming out and they like set up a music stand or they have like music stands like attached to instruments. And I was like, what is this? And I think that just, you know, the optics of it are very, very different. Because it's a difference when you are stuck behind a music stand and you're looking down the whole time versus what I've seen from you, like you have the ability to like move all over the place and you know what you're doing and you're interacting with the crowd. And so just tell me a little bit about that. Like, no music. What's going on?
Yeah, man. I'm gonna definitely say over time it's improved.
Okay.
Because, shoot, when I first started, I was stiff as like, you know, like, I don't know, like plywood or something. Like,
yeah.
It just, yeah, over time, like basically, for me, I never was a fan of like having to use sheet music because, you know, that's kind of more like where you have to sit down. Usually you're in an orchestra, you're kind of giving the more like professional vibe. And
Sure.
Don't get me wrong, I've done that plenty of times. Like, you know, I always do that for ceremonies sometimes if I had to go play classical pieces like Canon and D is like a typical, like, you know, something that I would play all the time. But
Of course.
yeah, over time, like, especially for like cocktail hours and like whenever you're, you know, people are getting a vibe, and most people are usually getting drinks and like, you know, like I said, the bride and the couple, they're usually taking pictures and out and about. Like, you know, it's good to just be like more, you know, I would say natural, just human.
Yeah.
Right? And for me, like, you know, that's where I kind of go into my own zone, as I call it. Like, usually when I play, like, I always close my eyes. That's one thing I do a lot. Or if I'm like walking around and stuff, I occasionally kind of look around and stuff and kind of just like make like random movements and spin and stuff. But, you know, I usually interact with the crowd, like just make it a party, you know, that's how I see it. And it's always cool. Like over time, I've gotten better at just understanding like where songs are, like kind of just playing with the music and just playing by ear, just kind of going with the vibe. That's really the main thing. So.
Yeah. That's pretty dope, man. And so I want to kind of transition to, I guess, the typical versus what you do. And so I think a lot of times, especially for ceremony, matter of fact, I just had a couple that I was talking to, and they were saying like, hey, you know, we're actually, you know, going back and forth right now because we're trying to decide if we want to get, you know, strings for our ceremony or if we want to, you know, get a DJ. And so my thought is always get both because, you know, you're going to need me for your sound, for your officiant and all that kind of stuff. And if you want, you know, a quartet or you know, a group of strings to, you know, play your ceremony music, that's totally fine. But I wanted to know, like, what is the major difference or what would be the benefit for hiring you over, let's say, a string quartet or even a DJ?
Ooh, man, I know it's a tricky question. I would say personally for me, it's like just the simplicity when it comes to like, you know, like I guess like a one-man show kind of like stop, if that makes sense. Because I would say, at least when it comes to quartets, you have to like, at least as a bride or like as a, you know, a couple or a groom or anything, you have to take in consideration about like where your budget is going to be going, like how many people you're going to be paying, your vendors, all
Absolutely.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to quartets and like multiple people, it can get a little bit confusing. And I know like your payments can kind of get dispersed and it can be kind of all over the place. At least for like for me, it's just a direct like deposit payment whenever I get there, and then we're set, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And setup for me, it usually takes like at most like 10 minutes. Pretty quick. And if you need me to like specify any specific songs you need, or if you want to play like instrumentals, or if you want to do like just solely just by myself, I can kind of give you that variety. And it can kind of range. Like I can control the music, but one thing I will mention, I know you mentioned quartet and DJ. Quartet, that's kind of where I have my comparison. But when it comes to DJ, I'm gonna be straight up. I can never compete with DJs. The only thing about that is because, yes, I'm a live musician. I can offer like my skills for like playing certain songs.
Yeah.
But when it comes to DJ, like you're never gonna be able to find like the type of vibe that you want for a certain like events when it comes to like musicians, unless you have a DJ.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, they're more like an actual MC as well. Like they're usually gonna be controlling like how people are going around the venue and stuff.
Yeah.
Dealing with like all the people that are inside like for your events and stuff, and then like kind of just being the life of the party. And for me, it's like I can give that aspect, but also keep in mind I can't do everything. I'm not gonna be like talking to Mike while I'm playing at the same time, because it'd be a little bit more challenging, but I can still be a part of the vibe. So other than that, like that's probably the main thing. It's just one man shop. That's how I would say, one man show.
Yeah, I have my own opinion about the question, and I'll start with quartets, right? So, there was this one event, and I love quartets. There's some specific groups out there that I really adore. Shout out to them, but hopefully y'all will come on the podcast later. but there was this one event that I was doing, and it was a situation to where the venue had this really long aisle, like this really long walkway, and the way that the outside ceremony space was set up, there was really no place to put the quartet except for kind of like at the back of the aisle, right? And so what they didn't realize when they were planning all of this is that the further and further the couple got down the aisle, obviously the lower the volume for the quartet. And a lot of times, like I'll just speak on my experience, it's like I haven't seen them bring speaker setups, mic setups, all of that kind of stuff. Most of them don't connect to my equipment. They go based off of their natural sound. Whereas with you, that I don't see that really being like an issue at all, right? Like you bring your own speaker, or you can connect to the DJ speaker, and once again you are mobile. You can move around. And so whatever type of vibe they're looking for, whether they want you to be seen or not be seen or whatever the case may be, they can get it.
Yeah, man. That brings up a good point too, because I didn't even think about that. You're right. When it comes to the speaker setup, the thing that is kind of different for most electric instruments is the fact that I am mobile, because I have this wireless transmitter that I also connected to my loop board that I use, and gives me the freedom to kind of walk. I think it's the range of like 500 to 1,000 feet like in the area. So basically for me, it's like, like you're right. Sound can be an issue, especially like, for certain ceremonies, or like if you're playing for like an event and stuff. Like if it's a big venue hall and stuff, like you have to make sure it like gets all the way to the back of the room.
Yeah.
And that's something about me is like, you're right. It is a benefit, at least for playing like electric violin or even acoustic, if I just plug it in with my looper setup that I have. So it does help.
So we're talking about how you can be mobile, how you have the the ability to kind of move around and do all of those different things. Is there like a best place to like station you when it comes to either ceremonies or cocktail hour? Like, is there like a best spot? And I'll say why I'm asking this, because a lot of times, for DJs, for a reception, they're like, hey, like, let's put the DJ in the corner, right? And the reality is, like, if you put the DJ in the corner and, I have these speakers, which I can, there's some mobility there, but, like, more than likely the speakers are going to be, right there in your grandma's ears, and, you know what I mean? Like, it's not really the best place to put me in a corner, the best place to put me is like as close to the dance floor as possible, right? And so seeing as how, you do a lot of ceremonies, you do a lot of cocktail hours, is there a best spot for you, or like are you just truly like, hey, wherever you need me to be, that's where I'll be?
Yeah, I didn't even really go in detail about that. I would say honestly, like, let's break it down for each one. So
Okay.
ceremony preferably, just depending on like what the couple wants, like for like the essence of like their photography and videos that are going around and stuff too. I would say like probably like right where the altar is, maybe to the left or the right side of it. At least like kind of near the stage. But if they're gonna have like the bridal party and like the grooms and stuff kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
I won't be like in front of them just like taking up all the sunshine or anything. But yeah, just where you can kind of give a good sound, like you mentioned, like kind of have like the speaker like where it can kind of get the whole hall and everything. And it kind of varies because the thing about being mobile, I can kind of set up wherever I need to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If it makes sense. And then when it comes to like cocktail hour and reception, like you mentioned, cocktail hour, I would say not necessarily like where a lot of the crowd is. So if there's like a bar, for example, or any type of like
not
food
directly
dishes,
next
not
to
directly next to it, because that's where it's gonna be a mess,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are walking around. So that's one thing. And then for reception, same thing, like kind of near the dance floor. If I'm with the DJ, I can kind of be like where that setup is, or I've had a few times. I actually was on stage, like they had the speaker like on the corner part of the stage, and then I can kind of be just like in the middle, like where the actual dance floor is, and that's where I can kind of perform. So it just kind of varies, but I would say just anywhere where there's not a lot of traffic. That's what I would say. So.
Okay. So check this out. I have this segment on my podcast. It's called Hot Topics, right?
Okay.
And this is where we kind of talk about different things that go on in the wedding industry. And yeah, we just talk about like all of these things, these controversial things or whatever may happen. And I will tell you, just because of, obviously you're such a unique piece to add to, a wedding. Like I was like, man, I really don't know what hot topic to give him. So I was thinking back to one of the weddings that I've done. And, again, we've kind of touched on cocktail hours a lot. And so I vividly remember there was this one cocktail hour that I did to where I am, I'm fully set up and all that kind of stuff. And everybody's transitioned inside. It's actually the main ballroom where they're hosting the cocktail hour. And, out of nowhere, like I just hear this, like all of this, like yelling, right? And I'm like, man, am I playing this good? Like, so where everybody's starting to scream for me. Okay, cool. And so I look up and like there's like this full blown argument going on, right? And thankfully the venue had security police that were there, and they kind of came in and helped diffuse the situation. But this was like in my younger DJ days, and so I had no clue what to do, whether I was supposed to like keep playing through it or turn the music down or whatever. So I think I just like turned the music down and just started watching for it.
Yeah, we'll be a witness.
Yeah, so for a second. And so obviously, right, like again, we're talking about you're mobile, you're moving around, you're doing all of these things. And like I could only imagine if something crazy were to happen, like while you are in the middle of playing like the smoothest song ever, and then out of nowhere, like an argument breaks out or the cake falls over or something crazy. So my question is, like, has there ever been something like crazy or strange that has happened to you during one of these events, and how did you handle it?
Man, I literally went straight to this wedding I just thought about right now when you were mentioning that stuff. Yeah, so last year, I think it was in the summertime around this time too. I went to a wedding. It wasn't that far. It was over in like the Heights area over in North Houston. And I remember that at this wedding, it was a little bit more on the, I'm going to say, raunchy side. Let's put it like that.
Okay.
And man, they were over the top. So homeboy or the groom, he they got a little bit lit. Like, they had, bottles of Hennessy and, like, Ciroc, like, the typical club stuff. And, like, man, I was supposed to play for, like, 30 minutes to an hour for this, like, for the reception, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, I had to bring my speaker in there. But, bro, tell me why, like, I had, like, no space whatsoever. Like, the whole dance floor / ballroom, everything that they were in was just packed. Like, it was hot. That was one thing. They started taking off their shirts and stuff. And, like, they were, like, passing bottles and stuff. And I'm gonna say this not on the air because technically it's not legal, but they were also smoking the
Yeah.
They're passing that around and stuff in the wedding hall. Keep that in mind. So they actually had the cops called on them like twice while it was during the ceremony. So the cops had to come inside and like deal with like talking to them and stuff.
Can't be smoking
and
in here.
I'm over here on the stage just trying to play like Keisha Cole and like my R&B, just trying to set the vibe. And man, when I tell you that, like, it got to a point that I was on the dance floor with like a grandma that was like starting to twerk around me and stuff and like dance. It was just, that was over the top. So back to what I was mentioning before, like I just gotta have a little bit of space just so I can kind of set the tone. But that, I would say that was probably the most controversial wedding I've dealt with because we basically almost got kicked out. Like it was interesting.
Man. I wish I could have been there.
So rolling on the floors and stuff, man, I'm telling you.
That sounds like a wild one. That is crazy. Yeah, man. And so like you just kept playing through it? Like,
bro,
it's just...
okay, yeah, literally I had to just be on stage just casually, just like, people bumping into me, just kind of turning, just like, hey, at least it sounds good, right? It's just, and the groom over here literally about to pass out on the dance floor. It's just, it's funny. Man.
Oh my gosh.
Weddings can be funny, man. They're fun.
That is funny. So, kind of transitioning out of hot topics. That was funny. You don't just do weddings. And so I wanted you to kind of talk about like some of the different types of events that you also do outside of weddings. Because I also, I do, private events, I do corporate events, all of that kind of stuff. And so what else do you do?
Yeah, man. Shoot, almost anything that requires music if you think about it. But, I record music for other artists. So like, I've had like rappers and some other like, singers and people that hit me up for like, writing tracks for the background and like, adding orchestral like strings for their songs. Yeah. That's one thing. And then, for other events, I usually play at like a lot of proposals, for example, a lot of business events. You'd be surprised a lot of companies like to have like, background music that's playing for a couple hours and stuff.
Absolutely.
And then, mixed variety stuff, like another hot topic, but it wasn't really a hot topic. There was this couple that actually booked me for like a massage / night or whatever you call it. Like, I didn't realize that when they booked me because they thought it was just like an anniversary dinner. So I was like, okay, cool. So pull up to like the hotel and play for their dinner and everything. Didn't realize that it started turning into like a sensual, like, they had a private chef, lights were turned down, I'm playing background like R&B, like, sexy music, and like they went full out with like, just whole massage. Like it ranges, man, but
So wait, hold on, wait. We can't let you just slide by this real quick. So you're setting the scene. You are coming to this hotel. You assume that you're playing for like just a nice little anniversary dinner. Mm-hmm. And then you're telling me this turns out to be like you're playing background for like a couple's massage? Like,
bro, like whatever you want to think, 50 Shades of Grey type, whatever, like that's it. Like, it's just Hotel Zaza, top 4 suite. If you have
Shout
ideas,
out to Hotel Zaza.
If you have ideas, go for it, man. But yeah, it was. Yeah, I was.
Hey, well, the question is, did they pay?
Oh, they paid. Yeah, they paid. I wouldn't be there if they didn't pay. I'd be there. But.
Well, he's not looking to do any more massages, right? He's a professional.
Hey, man, I got you though. Like, you just be upfront with me about that. Don't cap. Like.
There we go.
I got you though. I got you.
All right, so you are all over the place. You do a ton, and when I first met you, it was just like, oh man, this dude is dope. Like, from the music to the style to everything. And, obviously I'm not the only person that has noticed you're dope. Like you
Appreciate that,
24,000 people on Instagram have noticed that you're dope. And, you are consistently booked a lot. And so even the last time that I saw you, we weren't necessarily performing together, but you showed up and you were doing an event at the church, and you've been at different venues that I've seen you, wedding venues, and so you're all over the place. You're constantly booked and busy. How far in advance, if somebody is looking to book you for their wedding or even their corporate event, how far in advance should they be looking to how far in advance should they inquire?
Yeah, man. Honestly, this isn't even applied to just me. This is just for like, in my opinion, like all like entertainers or people that you hire, like vendors, because this is when it comes down to professionalism.
Yeah.
I would say personally for me, like if you want to actually have a set date that I can like give you a deposit and also like be free for that time, at least like 2 to 4 weeks, like maybe like a month or so. Like that's like minimum. And then like, some people book me like a year in advance if they need to, or even shoot a year and a half. I've had that a couple times. Yeah. But yeah, just to be realistic, because, most clients, if they try to book a vendor, like, a DJ or anybody, like, a couple days before the actual event, it's like,
it's not going to happen.
It's probably not going to happen. And just be real with you. It's just kind of like time courtesy thing, That's just how it is. But, I would say at least like 2 weeks to a month. That's kind of minimum. So.
Okay. And last question, do you travel?
Oh, for sure. All the time. Yeah. Like, shoot, I actually just got back from playing at a wedding in Cancun.
Talk that talk.
That was amazing, by the way. Like, I don't know if anybody's ever been to like an Indian or like Arabic wedding before, and like the whole like setup that they do. But they have multiple days that they have, like all their events and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I played for the ceremony. Their like social hours they call it, and like their Sangeet, I think that's how you pronounce it, but. You had to dress up like with the whole like the whole outfit that they give you, like it's over the top. But yeah, man, like I always love to travel. Like if you got any events like out of the country or out of the state or like anywhere besides Houston, I got you. So it's fun.
Cool, man. Well, of course, before we get out of here, please let them know where they can find you. Instagram, website, any of that stuff. Give them everything.
Yeah, man. Once again, my name is Marion DuBoses, and my ats on most social media is Who Marion, so WHOMARION. And you could just search up my name on Google and like anywhere, and I promise you'll find it. So
it's gonna come up.
Yeah, you'll find it. So
cool. Well, man, again, I appreciate you for stopping by on the couch, man, and joining me here. You're absolutely amazing. And I'm sure there are going to be some people out here who, have, learned something from what you have given them, and, are going to be interested in booking you if I'm being 100% honest. So, it's been another episode of the Weddings and Wine podcast. Cheers.
You be tripping on the time we'll spend. I pull up and gotta slide once again. You signed up, said you ride to the end, but you don't wanna be alone. If it's something on your mind,